My days at CEPT was, yes, it was a great exposure under wonderful teachers, P.V. Doshi, Anant Raje, Kurula Varkey, Nilkanth, Chhaya, so it was a wonderful 6-7 years. In our days, we used to do everything manually. Present generation knows softwares. That is their skills.
What is the philosophy of MODO Design?
It's always been about being inclusive, and fundamentally, it's about being responsive to people, place, and purpose. With changing times, there would be new methods, new technology. I think that embracing it is the way forward. I mean, we cannot stay away from the flow.
Welcome to TADPOD with Drovita Maida, Drashti, featuring the renowned and trend-setting architect Arpan Shah from MODO Designs. This is an initiative by the Architect's Diary. Architecture is not just about structures. It is about crafting experiences, shaping memories, and giving space a soul. Since 2002, Arpan Shah from MODO Designs, Ahmedabad, has been transforming landscapes, homes, and institutions into timeless, multisensorial experiences, blending minimalistic elegance, contextual sensitivity, and poetic expressions. Recognized as one of the most influential architects in India, his work has been celebrated by TED50 in 2025 in Top 50 Architects and Interior Designers of India, NDTV Design and Architecture Award in 2016 as Excellence in Hot and Dry Climate Zone, Collier Bold Design Award in 2016 for Bold Luxury, Best of House in 2018 in the design category, Forbes India Design Awards, and ICI Ultratech Outstanding Structure Award. At the heart of his philosophy lies a simple yet profound mantra: do less, do fine. Every project at MODO Design is a dialogue with place, people, and purpose, where light, material, and space converge to create experiences that don't just exist, but linger in memory. Sir, it's a deep honor to welcome you on the TEDPOD Drashti. Once again, welcome Architect Arpan Shah from the MODO Designs, Ahmedabad.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here, sharing my thoughts with you.
So, without taking much of the time, we have a lot to discuss and a lot more to talk on multiple topics. So let me start with one of my first question, which is that, every designer has a story and a saga to say. So what was your first, inspiration, or what made you pursue to architecture? A person, a memory, a place, or any incident, what it was?
So I think rather than a specific person or institute, I think it was the entire my early formative years during my school days, where I was inclined towards arts and crafts. And I used to rigorously enjoy the process of making. That what kind of captured the attention of my family, and they also kind of encouraged me to join classes, or kind of encourage me to further pursue this entire creative profession. So that's how it kind of started. So and that's how I entered into architecture. And then it's been a pleasure, since then, to kind of be a part of this creative process.
So you've been an alumni of St. Xavier's School.
I did my schooling in Xavier's, and which always encouraged drawing and crafts and sports activities. And I think for me, the arts and crafts is the takeaway from my schooling days, which I have still then since then continued, and CEPT further kind of initiated me into this, because I'm talking about the 90s when I entered into School of Architecture, CEPT, which also encouraged a lot development of skills of sketching and thinking creatively. So which then I've pursued that into my profession, so since then. That I think in order to be creative, one has to really rely on one's senses, one's ability to interpret, to sketch, and assimilate all that into one's own creative process.
So was it always that you wanted to be an architect or was it some kind of some motivation which brought you to CEPT?
My father actually encouraged me into this, that I think you should go into architecture at a 16 or 17 years. I think I was inclined towards something that was creative, something where, I loved making things, So it was about crafts, it was about sketching, it was about painting. So that's where my family, my father in particular, encouraged me that he himself being a civil engineer, that I should get into a construction field. And with my inclinations towards creativity, he said that I should go into architecture and get into designing profession.
So I think there was a great surrounding which really brought you to the perfect destination.
Yes. I think my family did encourage me, and he was always supportive. So that kind of definitely got me to this. And then I'm happy to be in this profession. It is no looking back. My early days at CEPT initiated me into this, and then I tried my best to take this forward and to keep evolving as a designer.
Fantastic. So, as you said that again, your father and family, but other than that, you got a golden chance to be under the mentorship of our legendary B.V. Doshi sir, and that reshaped your design philosophy, or would have really brought a lot of, knowledge and wisdom to be able to be with him and in your early years. So how was that?
Yeah. So my days at CEPT was, yes, it was a great exposure under wonderful teachers, P.V. Doshi, Anant Raje, Kurula Varkey, Nilkanth, Chhaya, Leo Pereira. So it was a wonderful 6-7 years where it was an entire ambience, basically, of students and faculty, and a wonderful collaboration, and an ecosystem of really enjoying this act of designing. Yes, I think that was my initial years, which kind of got me into this. So yes.
So I'm sure that you were very fortunate, and then that era, the faculties were really so senior that it was genuinely like a mentorship and guiding and training all in one in the college itself. So further that, then you started your firm as the MODO Design, and it has gained a lot of recognition and a lot of glamorous, projects you've done. You've also done a lot of, projects which make a lot of sense towards the societal impact. And what is the philosophy of MODO Design when it started and still now? What is the philosophy behind it?
So it's always been about being inclusive, and fundamentally it's about being responsive to people, place, and purpose. And for me, architecture is about interpreting. It's about interpreting what we are building for, where we are building, for whom we are building, and finding expression. So it's not something which is where the expression is standard, but I think with changing conditions, whether it's place, purpose, or the people for whom we are building, I think I try to adapt, or try to basically sink into the requirements, or I interpret, and then find an appropriate expressions. So in that sense, yes, inclusive. And while I'm working on those expressions, it is also about working with certain standards or certain principles that I believe in, which obviously eventually it changes as time progresses, as you begin to evolve in your own thinking. So those are the standards. I like to call my practice like a necklace. That there is the running thread, which is your design principles, which is what you believe in, and those pearls are the individual expressions in terms of the buildings that you're building at different times or in different places. So that's how I like to kind of give metaphorically think of my practice.
So, MODO, the name itself is very different. What does MODO mean, and from where does it come from?
So, while I was looking to initiate my setup, and this goes back to 2001, 2002, and I was trying to figure out a name, and that's where I read somewhere a word MODO. MODO is actually a Latin word, and from that Latin word came the English word modern. Basically, it means of its time, and something that I believed in, that I think my setup would always be about making things that are relevant. That in what times and in what conditions we are building. So that's how I connected with my own belief, and that's how I said, okay, I think I'm going to call my firm MODO, of its time, basically.
Very, very meaningful, deep, and impactful name, I must say. So then you always work and you try to balance minimalism with the cultural depth. And how do you maintain the poetic equilibrium between the, modernism and the cultural values, which is a challenge in itself?
It's always so. One of the things that I believe in is that I have tried to stay away from taking extreme positions. For me, it's always been about balance, and so I think we're grappling with different concerns, and I think how you really assimilate that. It's always been about adapting. It's always been about it being inclusive. And therefore, I think it's about balancing, right? So I have my academic exposures. Obviously, those are set of influences. So my architectural language does get influenced by my own background, which reflects in what...
So you are born and brought up in Ahmedabad?
Yes, I am born and brought up in this rich, culturally rich, architecturally rich place. My schooling in Xavier's, again, a very, very, very raw brick and concrete and a beautifully designed building. My education at CEPT. All these are kind of influences that address my work, where I'm trying to work with way raw and natural materials, basically, and try to evolve an architecture that's in tune with nature or inclusive of the elements. Yes, my work is about simplicity. I think, we were exposed to the modernist architects, and in a way that does reflect my work. But at the same time, I think it's not about just being something that is very standard or very simple in expression. I think it's also about interpreting the nuances, whether you call it the cultural nuances, the local nuances, even the nuances of people. So all of this is kind of assimilated, and that's what I try to find the local flavor. So it's like, the early modernist architecture, the early 20th century architecture, if you asked me to clarify, was always about finding something which is universal. But then, eventually people realize that I think what's happening is it's getting more universal and standardized. And therefore, that's where the entire movement towards phenomenology, or trying to find an architecture which is rooted or which has a local flavor, called vernacular architecture. So that's where the entire move happened. my architecture, in a way, does try to take inspirations from vernacular architecture. So whatever I'm doing in India, yes, it's inspired by architecture from Rajasthan, from the poles of Ahmedabad, from Kerala. So we try to kind of interpret these, typologies and try to reinterpret in a more contemporary way, or rather suited to the new lifestyle or the climate. So that's a connection, or call it a rootedness that I'm trying to find, so that if I'm working in India, right, I think my work, I try to search for that expression that I think this has to, whatever I'm designing, whatever I'm building, it has to find that connect. And same applies. Imagine if I was working, let's say, in some other country, then the first thing that I would do is I would try to find, okay, what is this place about? What is the climate? What is the people? And then how different can I? So in a sense, my practice is about that. As an architect, it's not about being authoritative. It's not about a signature style. I think it's about dissolving. I think it's about being versatile and erase the myself and try to find expressions in reference to where and what and for whom I'm building. And it's amazing because then you realize that you end up doing what you're not thought about, because it's a process, and you begin to explore and then come up with something that you yourself at the end is amazed that, okay, I think I'm working in a different context or for a different a set of people, and this is what I came up with. And so that's the fun part, that you begin to kind of get versatile and dissolve in the act of making.
So that's so amazing to see how organic you want to be in your projects. You want to be like the elements of nature who just easily gets into the people's mind without even letting them know how you dissolve in them.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful to know, and also to know that vernacular style is not something which is having some era. It is timeless. See, vernacular has no era as such. It is still being fused in modern architecture, and a lot of people still don't understand that this is the fusion element of the vernacular and the modern. So I think, what is vernacular for you? I think because you've just mentioned the word, and the people who are of the same fraternity might be knowing it, but there are a lot of people and a lot of other viewers. Could you just define it?
So the term vernacular means basically, in simple terms, the local expression. So, I mean, before the advent of the modernization or the industrialization, different cultures had their ways of expressions. So if you talk about India, each state, I mean, whether you talk about Gujarat, Rajasthan, Kerala, their set of ways of dwelling, or the constraints of the climate and the constraints of technology, or their beliefs, would lead them towards a certain way of building, which is what was very rooted. So in a sense, I call vernacular as very natural, very organic, pretty much like the way, the local flora of every place develops in reference to the conditions, whether it is soil or climate. So it is the set of constraints or set of beliefs, which we call it culture, and of course assimilated that with the climatic constraints, that gave rise to a unique architectural expression. So we value, if you go to Rajasthan or Kerala, with set of local materials, local beliefs or culture or lifestyle, you would have a pattern, which is very standard, right? And then you'd say, oh, it has a certain unique flavor. So that was what was happening before industrialization and modernization. And, which is what I thought was something very natural, something very rooted, of course, and very relevant to that place. And that's what I take inspirations from, that I think vernacular architecture was so varied. I mean, India itself had so much of, whether you from Himachal or
Kutch
or Rajasthan or Kerala or Maharashtra, there was so much of variations. And then, or even African vernacular architecture, European vernacular architecture. So all had their unique ways, and then a lot of them would be addressed by the climate. I mean, where there would be heavy rainfalls, there would be certain expressions. Where there's snowfall, there would be certain expressions. Where there's scarcity of rainfalls, we'd have terraces, and there would be a lot of importance on outdoor living. So I think it was this thing about the local, flavor, that what I try to kind of interpret in my architecture.
So nicely explained. I mean, a lot of people have just a notion that, vernacular is about ornamentation. So if there's this carving and this is this jarokha and all, it is intake, and this is vernacular for people who are not of the stream. But when you try to explain the clients and all, and now when they understand, it is not about the outer skin, it is a lot more about to breathe inside and how you breathe inside and the coating around. So right, and that brings me to asking that, architecture speaks beyond form. And how do you translate an emotion, a memory, a human story in a physical space? I mean, you would have a lot of varied kinds of clienteles and they have their own dreams and wishes. How do you do that?
So again, I mean, the fundamentals of my practice is being inclusive, where P2 is one of the aspects that I addressed, So let's say if I'm working in the same city, but I'm working for different people, different users, then for me, those users become important. So for me, interpreting, so the house or whatever I'm building is a portrait of them, right? So what we do is we have a lot of, we have initial meetings. It's also that my design process is such that we begin to, start off with conceptual layouts. And then as we have interactive sessions and as I begin to understand them more, I begin to kind of adapt and try to find expressions that weave their aspirations. For example, users have a set of functional needs and then they have aspirations. Those aspirations are also how they visualize their dwellings or whatever buildings that they're making for themselves. And it's also basically their liking. They might. It's also something that they might have seen somewhere. It's also an influence. That this is how I would want my place to be. So I think what we do is, for us, it is a takeoff. That it is not that, this is what I do. No, I think it's about understanding their aspirations, because eventually if they're the user, they have to get associated, right? And so all those things we gradually assimilated, and our process is such that it is a very open-ended process. So I think one of the things about MODO Designs is that we have interactive sessions and we gradually evolve the
together
project. Yes. So we never ever kind of have an entire presentation on day one, right? So we show them some things, not getting really attached to what we've done. Very important.
Yeah, very, very important.
Do try to enforce. Okay. So our practice has been about enforcing, but it's about flowing. Okay. So in a way, it's like, I would say pretty much like water, water kind of has its form, but it still flows. So that's how our practice has been. And the fun in that is that, as I said before, that we end up doing things that we haven't done. So we're very open that way. For example, yes, I have my set of references. That is why they've come to me. So after these many years, obviously there's a certain standards, certain way of creating. And in a way, there's a niche that's been created, and certain clients may find my work appropriate, or that's how they see that. Okay, I think I want to get my house done because they might be able to have an affinity, or they may be able to identify with my expression. So those are things that happen naturally, with my set of influences. But at the same time, there, as I said, there are certain open-ended things which we are which we are observing. So if the client says that, okay, I like this material, or I like this reference, or I don't like this, then we try to kind of work with that and try to come up with a more tangible. It cannot be a confused expression. Eventually, they may have 10 set of preferences. So for us as an architect, we have to filter, and we have to give form to what is there in their mind, or what is their aspiration, that we have to interpret. And then we present, and then again there will be their feedback, and then again we try to. It's an back-and-forth process, very engaging, and in the end, what we're happy about is that our clients, if they're able to associate with what's been given to them, so it's not a one-way process. Yes, I think as architects, specifically for the younger generation, what I want to share is that as architects, we have to really be happy with what we have done. So it's a very fine balance where we as designers have to at times convince or make clients realize that I think this is what you need, but according to me, my sensibilities say that I think this is how I can interpret this. So I think at times we have to be, putting our foot down that I think this is not the right combination, or this is what, according to me, what needs to be there. So it's a very fine balance. It's like I call my practice a real collaboration with the clients. So it is never one way. It's always two ways. Sometimes, it's like I'm listening, and sometimes it's important that I also ensure that I think the clients are listening. That it's kind of a very fine balance. And what eventually the end product is that the clients have to like it, and at the same time, we as architects have to take pride. Otherwise, it's not a happy practice. So for the younger generation in particular, I think it's very important that you take pride in what you have created.
So I think if in a simpler way I explain to the client, to the viewers, I would say it's like a baby which is being nurtured by both the parents.
Yes.
One parent is the architect, the other parent is the client. And then if they both are not fine-tuned, I think eventually the child suffers.
Yes.
So if both of them are united and they have eventually worked on their marriage firstly, then I think the byproduct or the major product, which is the child, is made as beautiful as envisioned by both.
That's right. And it's also about communication. So I don't believe in a practice where architect conceive things. So I think it's about, as I said, a collaboration that requires a lot of communication. So I think you have to explain, right? Or you have to be there for the clients to listen. That what is it that's kind of hurting them, So I think it's kind of a give and take, and that's where a client and an architect's relationship is healthy. That's important. Yes.
So that's really very clear and straight for a lot of viewers to understand that one has to speak where they have to, and one has to bow down when it is needed to. So this takes me to another question that, which is a very a question which always has its own sides. Topic about the Vastu Shastra, which is always having its own opinions, and also the spatial harmony in the designs, keeping it contemporary, functional, and also what, according to you, is the science or logic behind the Vastu Shastra, and how architects can deal with it?
So I would like to see this very scientifically, and we have been lately assimilating the Vastu principles. It's specifically working in Gujarat. I think a lot of clients feel the need to address that concern. So what we've done is we've tried to balance Vastu, the pragmatic aspects or the functional aspects, and the aesthetics. So these three components we try to balance, neither go to any extremes. So again, coming back to Vastu, as I said, it is a science. I mean, I want to see it in a very scientific sense. Let's say, for example, it talks about having the Brahmastan or the center open. And we have been basically trying to develop, or rather encourage the courtyard typology, which is there in our culture, and we're trying to give a more contemporary expression, specifically with the technology that is available. So when the center is open, basically it means that there is a lot of elements in that area. So you have natural sunlight, you have it causes cross ventilation, which I think is essential, because if you have elements, it is directly related to the health of the users. It talks about kitchen in certain direction, it talks about the bedroom in certain direction. So in a sense, Vastu is about balancing the energies. It's what you call the Sukshma science. And I think it has been a part of our culture. So I try to work with it, but not at the expense of the functionality getting suffered, or the aesthetics or the concept of the spatial organization with which we started getting suffered. So I think we try to balance these three components.
So I wish people understand it as a science rather than it blindly being followed, that, because in Vastu itself, there are options. If not this, then that is the second possibility, third possibility, which itself tells that you can play with the science. Science never enforces. It always gives us the flexibility to work on.
Yes.
And hopefully following it, so vernacular architecture or contemporary architecture, they all at the end work on the climatic principles, and Vastu is all about that.
Yes.
So hopefully the juggling between them, if it is at the optimum level, I think it works well.
Yes.
You are trying to balance it. So that's really a message to be heard. Now, when you start a design, what comes first? The site, the client, the climate, or the story you want that space to tell? I mean, there are different ways to, initiate a project, right? Somebody has a different perspective. So what is your angle of that?
So, we, before designing, it's always meeting the clients, understanding their needs. We go to the site inevitably. We never start off designing before seeing the site. It's weaving all these aspects, understanding the user, seeing the site, and then trying to find expressions, right, that is best suited, for that place or for the people for whom I'm building. There are also inspirations. I think sometimes in our interactions, or let's say, for example, a site can have a strong influence, or not necessarily. It may not say it strongly. So that's one thing, that, you have a strong set of inspirations, whether they are keywords from users, whether there's a site. And from there on, what we do is, it's always explorations. I think it is not that there's this one sketch and this is it. No, for me, it is about, okay, I mean, this is the set of requirements, the inspirations. Let's, so for me, I tell my colleagues, let's enjoy the game, of designing. So it's not about quickly ending it. I think it's about exploring. So uh, we have kept a tradition of kind of taking time, in every project. We've kept it slow, just enough slow, so that because I believe that it's important. You need time to really explore, to let possibilities come out. So that is one of the things that we do, that we explore with this possibilities of design, and then not really reject it right away. And then we say, okay, now we're going to show these possibilities to the user and let them also have their say, keeping ourselves open all the while. So that's how it is with us. Yeah.
So I'm sure that there would be having different strategies to deal each project, wherein at the end what matters is to nurture it and give the perfect time so that it can bloom into the perfect flower. So which project challenged your instincts or transformed your perspective on architecture? Was there any such project?
Not really a particular project. I mean, if you, my practice is now, it started off 2022, almost 23, 24 years. I think there have been phases. So when I started off, my early projects were about form. Eventually, you can call that evolution, or, my own maturing is key, that I moved towards spaces, and my architecture started weaving open spaces. Lately, I've also been working with trying to find an expression that is kind of more assembly based or more delicate. So I think I've been going through phases. I mean, with what they could be random inspirations, not particularly projects, but random influences, random things, or which has addressed my own evolution. It's pretty much like, okay, I've been working in this phase, and I think, and then you see that transition, and then again there's a transition, or call it an evolution. But okay, so it's also basically my interpretation. So okay, I think this is where the new trend is, or the necessity is, or the emerging times are, and then we begin to align ourselves. So it's not about just having very static practice, which is like doing the same thing in and out. No, I think with time it evolves. With emerging conditions, it adapts. So we are also exploring, and I think it's also a belief that I think in these times I need to explore this. Or we're working with new technology. For example, lately we've been working with more delicate structures, because it's also the interpretation of the technology, the new technology that is made available to us. And I said, okay, if there's this technology, which means that my structures needs to be more slim, or before that, when I was working with spaces, I felt that at one point I felt that I'm working with too much form, or too much outside. And then I realized, and then you realize, so it's like you begin to think, there's the thing that, okay, I think this is what is happening, and then you set up that change, or you begin to work with those set of changes.
So yeah, beautifully said, that it cannot never be static. It has to evolve. So then every architect navigates between the client aspiration, creative vision, and then how do you deal with losing the authenticity? If you have your own style, like you have your signature somewhere, I would not say you are enforcing towards it, and there is some contradicting idea from the client side. How do you deal with that, Nuran? Wide sense of expectational gap?
So I'll do see my practice a little flexible, if not very flexible. See, I believe that if an architect is doing everything, then I feel that it's a very commercial setup. Okay, that you're working for money. I mean, if you're doing everything, so if at times there are certain typologies. So we've been working with certain typologies, and not been working with certain typologies, or we have been working with people whose sensibility aligns. I mean, we've had cases where we have let go on projects where we feel in between that. I think this emerging needs or sensibility is going beyond what I can accept. So that's where we say that I think I would rather not compromise and not do this thing, because then I would not be happy about it. That's what I meant. That I think you have to take pride and you have to be happy about what you're doing. So eventually, it is your expression or your interpretation of how a space needs to be. So at that time, we let go. Many times, which is rare, but many times you're very open to kind of interpret that. If let's say if a client says that, okay, I think you've been working with a lot of exposed concrete, and we don't want exposed concrete. We like this kind of materiality. So I said, okay, I think I am open to explore that. Or if somebody says that, okay, I think you've been working with a lot of open spaces, and you would not like to have so many open spaces. So I think it's very intuitive. I think I have to feel that, okay, I think, okay, this is my way. It's their house or their space. And if I'm okay to interpret, then I go ahead. Otherwise, if I feel that, okay, I think this is getting beyond my circle of comfort, which I'm stretching it anyways, then I say that, okay, I think this is not working out. I think I'm not the right person to interpret your needs. So that way I say, okay, I'm not going ahead. Yes.
So you have to take a stand somewhere where it is needed, or else then either you choose to stay or you choose to leave at the right stage wherever needed. So any one of or any project which is so close to your heart, you can just name them and the story behind that close project.
My own design?
Yes. Which is your most favorite design? And
I in terms of dwellings,
yes,
I really enjoyed doing the veranda house. I enjoyed doing the terracotta house, the courtyard house. There are these few projects where they're all different expressions. One of them is kind of a compact interpretation of a pole house. The veranda house is more an interpretation of clients' association of the colonial architecture, which was old house, and responses to the site, which gave rise to the entire curvilinear formation and primarily verandas. Or the courtyard house, which was one of my most open house, having a lot of courtyards and a very open house.
Where is it located?
The courtyard house is basically near Rachara. So
in Ahmedabad.
In Ahmedabad, yes, in Ahmedabad, which is very open, and generally a Gujarati family would be uncomfortable, but here we've done it, and an expression of myself, because I have tried to develop an architecture that is open. Somewhere I believe that if you are feeling good in that space, architecture does influence you, right? You does feel spiritually lifted. You feel good. There's a good vibe. People say there's a good, sometimes, when they say there's a good vibe, it's just the feel. And I think architecture is not just about functionality, about putting things. I think overall it's also about ambience. And something that that you're able to identify it. You feel good. You kind of feel lifted. So that's the architecture that we've been trying to pursue. That if we can do something that makes people happy, the users happy, or the visitors happy, and I think somewhere we have done justice. So there are these few projects, and in terms of another typology, like for example, we have been doing few apartments. We have been working with corporate offices. So in corporate offices, we did the Symphony Corporate House or the Runner House, where we tried to work again with these courtyard typologies, or kind of interpret the skin in a different way, which is responsive or kind of climate friendly. Because the present typologies, commercial buildings that are prevalent is, I don't think that's kind of relevant for climate in Ahmedabad. So those are kind of explorations that we've tried at a workspace level. We've done a couple of public gardens, which we enjoyed doing, where what we were happy is that irrespective, it is then not for certain select people. I think the best thing about doing city spaces is that it's open for all. So if you've used your skills, or you were able to design things that is for all, it doesn't restrict somebody, that everybody can use that space. So that is something that we take pride in. Yes.
So I think you've explored a lot of scales of projects, and also you have been having your own feel about each space in your own signature pattern, wherein you try to incorporate the breathability and the skin, which really talks about the psychology behind it, right?
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. And then again, the question was talking about, light and texture and creating the soul of project. Because especially in today's scenario, the artificial lighting or the importance of glazing everywhere and the sense of fake adaptation of some kind of notion in their head for modernism. How would you justify things like that?
So again, I want to come back to vernacular architecture, because I think if you look at these architecture, it was never about functionality. It was never about climatic responsibility, responses. It was always about celebration. That even you mentioned about carving, the carvings that you see in Rajasthan or Ahmedabad poles. It was, yes, it was a celebration of a facade, but it was also about breathing the light, so that some portions were shaded. Okay, and therefore your interior stayed cool. It was also about celebration of light, that how the light fall on that facade, which had depth. So it was not two-dimensional, and then there would be the play of light and shadow. So it was visual, and likewise there was also always the sensorial aspects to it. The touch of it, the feel of it, the smell of the natural materials, or with the nature within these spaces. There would always be different kinds of smell, the birds chirping. So I think these sensorial aspects, if it is weaved, then I think that it kind of completes the dwelling spaces, rather than lately it has become very visual. So which I call it little flat and two-dimensional. But I think as designers, we need to kind of get more holistic and try to make these spaces more sensorial.
So one has to take the responsibility for really bearing the cost of life when we are giving such kind of materials, the loss it creates onto the emotions, moods, and psychology while living in such kind of environment. I mean, it's really something which passively takes a lot, which people don't understand. So it's important for us to be more sensitive, as you said very beautifully, that it is all about celebrating with nature, not against the nature. So then it comes up that, sustainability, again, organic. And as you were talking, it was like a westernization has brought up with the rating systems. But as I've heard to your talks, and you've always said that it had never been like a system, but it was mandatory. Sustainability was very organic in India. And what would you say about that?
Yeah, so it was inherent. I think our lifestyles does talk about sustainability, whether it is reusing things, whether it is using the waste, whether it is living a life frugally, or whether using a space in multiple ways. All these are aspects of sustainability where I think it is about using something efficiently. It is about optimizing. It is basically, kind of reducing your consumption or the term, the carbon footprint, and try to live in a more lighter way so that the future generations can also inherit the earth and its elements. Otherwise, it becomes difficult. You can already see the impact international or at a global level, what changes has happened because of consumption, the climate changes or the drastic transformations. And that's the last recent years, because obviously the consumption has increased, and with the consumption has also increased the
global warming effects,
the carbon footprint. And I think it's also important that we begin to reverse and try to kind of connect back, value nature, connect back, try to find smarter ways of dwelling, whether it is harnessing solar and wind energy, whether it is kind of trying to develop a space that is such that it uses less mechanical energy, that is more passive, that is climatically relevant, that is more need-based rather than greed-based. So all these, I think, would make our designs more responsive. Of course, there's always these concerns about using something which is local, something that could consume less energy. It's also about finding a local expression, local flavor when using some local things. But basically, we're trying to use materials that basically consume less energy in making recycled materials. You could be working with waste. Lately we're trying to explore recycled wood. We're trying to explore concretes or bricks that can be made from the recycled materials. So in a way, I think every architect can find his or her ways to kind of come up with more creative solutions, which according to them would make the designs more sustainable.
So I think I love the way Indians used to approach to the multifunctional aspect. If you talk about a living room, they would have one like movable bed, which acted as a sofa in the mornings. In the night, it used to act like the bedding. And then eventually when there is some sabha or when there is some meeting happening, they would just move that, make it as an open spaced room. And that's how maybe 10 people used to live in a single spaced room where there was no bifurcations of activities. Now China talks about modular furniture, and it talks about, compact housing and capsule housings, and that is something which actually we practice since ages. I mean, reusing terraces in the way that we don't need special spaces around. We just know how to use each and every corner of the house. And that too in a way that it is perfectly contextual for that time.
Yes.
So I am so proud to say that, being born and brought up in a place where we've lived sustainability in the minute aspects, that makes us more mature designers. And fantastically said that, it is not a way to metrically analyze, it is mandatory. And one must know that. So that comes to a question towards the AI. So it's a very positive side. There is also a side which needs to be talked of as designers, as architects. What is your take on that?
With changing times, there would be new methods, new technology. I think that embracing it is the way forward. I mean, we cannot stay away from the flow. If you talk about the emergence of softwares, 20 years back, I mean, in our days, we used to do everything manually, and sketching and the drafting skills was of utmost importance. The present generation knows softwares. That is their skills. Probably 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the line, AI would have evolved, and the new generation would have embraced AI. So I think there are pros and cons to both. I mean, you can say that, okay, now, you know softwares, but you don't know how to draft or sketch. Or when eventually architects would be using AI, probably I do feel that it would affect the thinking skills because AI would make the jobs easier. But I think if you take it more positively, then I think it would also make the task more efficient. It would also make things more precise. And then it is on the user, the designer, that where is it that their input is there? For example, when you use AI in design tool, it is for now prompt based. Then I think if you're clear about your prompts, that means that if your purpose is clear, you will end up into a product which is what is intended rather than AI taking over. So that is one. It is also on your judgment, on your fine judgment. For example, I mean, let's say you were given few options by somebody, which now AI gives. Then it's also your judgment to select that what is relevant. It is important that while AI is being used, now, I think your ability, your critical thinking, your thinking skills cannot get diluted. I think that's the only danger, I think, with AI, because if it does all the thinking, then I think eventually we are leading towards a human species that will stop using its brain.
Which is very, very scary.
Yes.
At a point. And I think that will really take away a lot of sensitivity towards each other's emotions, towards concerning our observations, which were way more humanized rather than being robotic in its approach. So very beautifully stated. I mean, the prompts, for now, we would say the prompts are our origins. Rest, maybe the AI would work. But here, if a step comes ahead wherein the prompts are also, which is being auto-generated, then I think we are losing the control over selves. So I would rather definitely want the new generation to use the AI definitely there is no other way. We have to run with the time, but never forget that we have generated the AI rather than they generating us. So fantastic to know that as an architect, it does save a lot of time, manpower, but at the risk of intelligence.
Yeah.
True. So now a question comes in wherein what would you say that the MODO design or architect Arpan Shah would or should be remembered as, and what according to you your role is as an architect, your responsibility as a designer to the community, so that people genuinely understand the role of designers rather than the other people taking over onto the design decisions. What is your understanding for it, and how would people would want to remember?
We've been trying to do work for us working in India. We've been trying to do work that is sensitive, that is, we have been exploratory, and we believe that we've trying to do work that can be engaging for the people, in terms of our explorations and our innovations. I think it's also about trying to do an architecture, practicing specifically in India, an architecture that is relevant for the emerging contemporary needs, and trying to find a contemporary expression, Indian expression. So that's one of the things that we've been trying to contribute. We have been lately also wanting to move towards more community spaces, whether it is public gardens or working on public buildings. So that is one thing, because we've been working a lot in the private segment. And we're happy about it. I mean, that the fact that, users, restricted users are able to use that. But I think also contribute at a city level. So that is one of the aspirations, and we're trying to diversify into that. Overall, I feel that developing a body of work that would be, contemporary, and something that, can be say that, okay, I think this is Arpan's work at Indian, which can be relevant for Indian contemporary architecture. And at the same time, we'd be happy. I mean, we're trying to work on things that, even probably if somebody on an international front is able to take a clue that, okay, I think this is what, the principles are, and how he or she can probably get inspired. So, that would be one of my concerns, that if somebody outside India or a younger generation of India, and if they can probably find references or take inspirations and take it forward. So yeah, that would be one of the concerns for us. And there's been just doing things for the sake of it. I mean, we want to set up benchmarks. I think that's basically on us, that how can we push ourselves to do better work, to do more qualitative work in the Indian circumstances, in terms of finesse, construction finesse, in terms of detailing, all the while interpreting a space and a form that is very rooted.
That's so wonderful. I'm sure people are and will be definitely taking such kind of references, and also your take on to how do you collaborate and curate the collection of art and sculpture and the kind of pieces or the fabrics and a lot of things which definitely are so pivotal for the designs. So how do you want that also to like work
So
ahead?
my approach has always been collaborative, and my way of working is a little different in the sense that when I am involved as an architect, I like to focus on that aspect. So whatever typology, whether it's a institutional building or an office workplace or a dwelling, I try to work on the architectural aspects of it, and then it's a teamwork. So what we do is it's not me doing everything. It's basically setting up a team, right? So the architect, the client starts with me, and then we start involving people. So for me, my take is that it's not me who is doing everything, but it's a set of people and their collaboration. So it's a collaborative practice. So we involve interior designers, we involve landscape designers, and of course other consultants. Interior designers, in turn, they involve furniture designers, and then there are artists who are involved to do customized work. So it's like everybody does their job and do their job to the best of their abilities. And eventually what we have is a very coherent environment, which is basically a teamwork of designers, consultants, agencies, and the clients.
So wonderful. I think everybody has their own set of ethics of practice, and very confidently everyone practices in their own genres. So you have had your own statement of work wherein you want to focus on few of their aspects and you want to really welcome other aspects in their own fluidic manner.
Yes.
And that is again a collaborative approach of architecture. And a lot of clients don't understand, like, there are various styles of practices. This is one of the styles. Somebody would have the style where they do everything on their own, but that depends on their own typology of work pattern. So it's very interesting to know, see, all the guests and all the designers have their own fundamental basics and they are very strong in their own roots, and that there are causes behind it. There have been lots of knowledge being explored in the genre where they can very strongly come to a point where they state that this is the genre which I'm very much happy working on.
Yeah.
And there is fantastic. And to this, let us go ahead with the rapid fire round.
Yeah.
And let me start with the first question. Your favorite material in the design?
Concrete.
Concrete. The most important element in architectural language?
Open spaces in terms of terraces, courtyards, verandas.
Morning or night? When do you design?
Lately, morning.
Favorite travel destination that inspires your work?
In India, a lot of these places like Kerala, Rajasthan, Himachal Pradesh, and I've been fascinated by European countries in terms of the architectural content.
Wow. So a passion or practicality? What drives your project?
Passion.
So it's difficult to strongly state passion, because at the end, eventually we all turn up to practicality and losing the passion.
You start off with passion, and then practicality has to be
weaved inside. So it's very important for designers to really continue to stick to the passion which they start from. Iconic architect you admire the most?
Frank Lloyd Wright.
And Indian
Doshi.
One design trend you would think will never go out of style?
Working with the local trend. Yeah.
Local materials?
Yeah, local. So the local
and style.
Yeah.
Okay. Sketching or a 3D modeling? What do you really prefer? First step?
First step is sketching.
Sketching.
Yeah.
A building you wish you had designed?
Falling Waters by Frank Lloyd Wright.
Oh, wow. It's the dream of, I think, all budding designers. When they get into architecture, I think that is a project they dream of. And a dream project, international or local landmark, which which is still not there, but I think there's something which you want to like declare, some project you would be coming up with.
Well, I think I would definitely want to do some local landmark. Hopefully, it should happen soon. But yes, I think so. That's talking about the community spaces, and I think I would want to on a city level, definitely want to contribute and come up with something which is basically a local landmark or something which the city and its citizens can take pride in.
So we're just keeping our fingers crossed that MODO Design comes up with that landmark which you have envisioned very soon. And I'm sure that is going to be very much, minimalistic yet very appealing of your style. So architecture is not about buildings. It is about experiences and expressions which you've been talking about, and that all engage all senses, spaces that nurture human well-being, and environments that respect culture and nature. It is about creating sustainable, inclusive, and responsive design while leaving a lasting footprint in the society and in architectural fraternity. Thank you, Arpan Shah. It was a genuine pleasure to know your journey, your insights, your philosophies, and the rare blend of vision, creativity, and responsibility which you understand as a designer for the society. This is TADPOD with Dhruvita Maida, Aagdrashti, featuring architect Arpan Shah from MODO Designs, Ahmedabad. Stay tuned as we continue to bring you to the voices that are shaping India's architectural future, inspiring design and touching lives. Once again, thank you. Thank you so much, Arpan Shah, sir, for all your wisdom. And I'm sure all the young minds and all the other people would now understand a lot of vocabularies, lot of principles, and lot of aspects about design, Vastu, and vernacularity, right? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.